Whether you're a creator, a brand builder, or just someone ready to level up, you're in the right place. So grab your notepad and let's build something iconic. This is the Built to Brand podcast, and we're just getting started. Hey guys, it's Deja, and this is the Built to Brand podcast. And listen, I am so very excited because we have a special guest today, Simone Kendle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, girl.
And y'all, I'm like, when I say I'm excited, I'm very excited. Simone is a serial entrepreneur. She is a girl boss. She is one of the most supportive people I have ever encountered. I mean, she will just speak life and love into your life, okay? And she is right now the CEO of Wove. And we're going to talk about what it means to build a brand and build a brand that has some staying power and that's gonna last and make a splash. So
awesome.
You ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, so first question for you. I know right now we've talked about this, but you are leading a phenomenal brand and it's been venture capital backed, correct?
Yes.
What has that meant for you? Tell us a little bit more about that journey. What that means about how you have to strategically make some decisions for the brand. Like what's that?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest parts about me taking on this brand was that it wasn't my baby brand. So for many of us, when we're starting our entrepreneurial ventures, right, we're starting from absolute scratch. We're thinking of the name, the colors. And for me in this role, that wasn't the case. I came to the brand in a really great place, but it was in a stagnant place. It wasn't a brand that was living and breathing. It was one phenomenal photo shoot with a phenomenal concept, but it wasn't continuing to evolve with the market, with what new stories we were seeing from our clients. It just was kind of there, and we were always trying to emulate what we had done in this one photo shoot from the beginning. And so for a lot of venture-backed brands, that's kind of what happens. You get a amount of capital, right? Day one, let's call it, day one of funding. And the first thing you do as a venture-backed brand is you go hire an agency to put together your brief and your brand book and all these things. And it works well, right? Like it gets you a beautiful start. And it's a lot of what gives the right perspective to new clients, right? No one knows who your brand is. So you kind of have to come out of the gate very official. You cannot halfway do some of your photo shoots. You can't halfway do your models, your content. It has to be really well done day one, which is very different than a non-venture backed brand, because I think non-venture-backed brands can take their time, build community in a slightly different way, that I think both platforms have their pros and cons, right? And
tell us what venture-backed means, because we're basically saying you got to pay some money back, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So venture-backed essentially means that we have taken on venture capital dollars, so VC money, that's institutional money. So that usually comes in the form of a SAFE, which is essentially they are going to get future equity in the business when it's time to get that equity. Let's say there's an IPO or some sort of liquidation event. If there's money being exchanged from our brand to another brand, or selling of any sort, that's when you would get your equity and you get your payout, essentially. That's usually how early brands will do it. The other version is sort of convertible notes or debt, and that's another way where it is debt on your books, but it really does, for founders, operate very similarly to, hey, here's money to get you going, but when it's time for us to have a transaction, a sale, IPO, something like that, it will convert to equity and dollars for them. That is very much an oversimplification of venture capital, but essentially it just means that there are groups of people who said, hey, this is a great idea, this is a great set of founders. We want to give you a substantial amount of money to get things going because we believe that you can 10x our money. And that is what venture capital is looking for.
Oh my gosh. So as you were looking at your next opportunity and this came and fell into your lap on your plate, like what, I mean, when you knew that was kind of the undertaking, what was that experience like for you? Were you like, I can totally do this? Or were you like, whew?
I mean, honestly, Wove's brand was pretty fire when I got here. And I think that was what attracted me to the brand, was that it was so well done. The founders had really done that upfront investment mostly the right way. I think the hard part with when you're starting as a venture-backed brand early on, you also don't know what the next steps are after you have that amazing first photo shoot, that amazing first set of creatives. You don't know how to keep it going, and you realize really quickly it's really expensive to keep it going in the same way. And so then you start making decisions that don't always align to the brand, and that's when it starts to get tricky.
Yeah.
So for me, when I joined, I loved the brand aesthetic. I loved how it connected on so many different levels, just from the color scheme. They already had like multicultural models. Like there were so many really, really smart and great decisions they had made. It was just, how do we continue to build great content and brand building motions around it?
Yeah.
And it had to speak more to just one target area. So at that time, we were talking about 2 people getting engaged. And now we talk about heirloom pieces. We talk about wedding anniversaries. We talk about birthday. So there's so many other parts of our brand story and messaging we have to do. So, you know, for me, it was, I saw the aesthetic, I saw the site, and I was like, oh, I can work with that.
Yeah.
Like that was my feeling. I was like, oh, I can work with that.
Yeah.
Had it been a hot mess of a brand, I probably wouldn't, because I know what the market wants.
Exactly.
And it does want that like very well put together, especially up front. But the maintenance and the evolving of that is hard work.
Yeah. So let's talk about an evolution of a pretty established brand world, identity.
Yeah.
As a CEO, when you're kind of looking at your book of business and thinking about like the next level, but also like culturally things that are relevant, where do you feel like Wove One stands right now as far as like making sure that you guys are forward moving?
Yes.
But also like, yeah, that's an interesting challenge to have.
Yeah.
Like I came in and it was solid,
Yeah.
but replicating that.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
And there is no playbook for what to do once you have a brand name, a set of brand colors. I think for us, it was also making sure that our brand was cohesive regardless of the platform. And that's where, you know, that's the struggle is how do I make sure that my website looks beautiful and cohesive, but also looks beautiful and cohesive on Instagram or TikTok where the needs and expectations are different.
Yes.
And how do we create that fluidness where we actually can have a little bit more fun on TikTok because it's more discovery and sort of playful. But on Instagram, we still kind of need it to be like a magazine. But at the same time, static images don't get reach, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as a CEO dealing with the brand, it's not just about beautiful aesthetics. It's about, will this drive sales? And so how are you blending what your brand ethos is to actually creating content on a regular basis that matches what people interact with, engage with? And as a brand that's in this fine jewelry, luxury space, it can be a little tricky because we automatically think of gold and diamonds as like a very almost inattainable or unattainable spot. But yet all of us are hopefully getting married one day, hopefully have diamonds for ourselves one day. Like it's that thing that is aspirational, but Wove's job is to make sure you understand that it actually is way more accessible to you than you otherwise would have thought about. So that's really where we're leaning in when we think about going beyond just the photography aesthetic and the video aesthetic. It's how are we making luxury accessible? How are we talking about meaningful moments in jewelry beyond bridal?
Yes.
And that's how we're relating. So it's still going to look beautiful and feel beautiful, but we're going to be telling real stories behind that content.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of the work that's been in the market and some of your proudest moments when it comes to creative. I know you guys had a big brand.
We had a big brand moment. Yeah.
So tell us how that all came to be.
Yeah. No. So we had a pretty incredible moment last year. I had been at the brand for a little over 3 months. And one of the things that we said at the top of 24 was we need a big moment. We need a big amplification moment because the business was awesome. The team is phenomenal. We had a great product, but nobody knew we existed. And that is primarily a brand marketing issue, right? Like if we're not getting the message out there or it's not resonating, that's something we need to fix in order to fuel the rest of the business. And so we took a bet and we had the opportunity to gift Taylor Swift a bracelet, and which, you know, is one of the things for us. Gifting is hard. The brand hadn't really done gifting before I joined because it was always talking about bridal, right? So when you're kind of in you're in a category that's not easily giftable or shareable with lower costs. Like, let's say if I had a shampoo bottle, that's a lot easier for me to walk up and down the street, hand you it and say,
Absolutely.
hey, try this. Well, you don't really get that luxury when you talk about gold and diamonds.
Right.
And when you talk about a brand like ours who is really focused on bridal at the time. So our outreach efforts up until that point had been, how do we find someone getting engaged? How do we find someone with a wedding band? So we were shifting and trying a new way of connecting custom jewelry to the market. And so when we launched a collection with Michelle E. West, the pro golfer, who also, if we have an episode about partnership strategy, I'd love to come back for that.
Because that's on my list of questions.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. We'll come back to partnership strategy,
Okay.
but that's why the way that we partnered with Michelle was why we got Taylor Swift a bracelet. But needless to say, Michelle had a relationship with Travis Kelce at that time, Taylor's new boyfriend, because this was a while ago.
Yes.
And so Michelle texted Travis when I was sitting with her in New York over lunch. We were looking at the pieces, and she was like, hey, you know, could we get you a bracelet to give to Taylor? We just made this incredible diamond friendship bracelet, and she would be perfect for it. And he was like, yeah, sure. Like, let's do it. So he told us what he wanted to put on there. He wanted TNT on there, which was so sweet. But at the time, we didn't know what that meant, right? Like, I assumed what it meant. You could assume. All we knew is he wanted TNT on there.
Yep.
And then we delivered himself one. So we delivered Travis one that was a bit larger in carat weight than the standard. And then obviously we got Taylor Swift one. And then we delivered it to Chiefs Stadium like the 23rd of December, hoping that we might squeeze in a Christmas gift. And then we waited and nothing happened. And we just said, you know, this is a little scary. I have been a Dallas Cowboys fan forever, and I still am. But all of a sudden, I was a Chiefs fan because I was watching every game, trying to see if I could peep a bracelet. The whole team was. And then on January 28th, 2024, the Chiefs won the AFC Championship game, and we saw her have that big embrace with him on the field, and that bracelet was like right here.
Yes,
and
perfectly.
every media outlet. Oh my God, it was insane. And so at that point, we went full blown into PR. Let's like ride this wave. But I think it's a critical point about that is we are now going viral for something that is not like center of our brand.
Yeah.
Because before that point, we were all bridal, talking about engagement rings. And now this in our brand had to be quickly custom jewelry, Taylor, blah, blah, blah. So when we go on this press tour, I was really specific about how I talked about the brand. I said, we are bridal first, but we are now entering into custom jewelry. Like there was a lot of intentional verbiage used, how I answered questions in the media, because even when something amazing like that happens, if you confuse the consumer on who you are, it can actually be worse for your business after that moment. So it was a wild time, but it also made sure that we were really, as much as we could, refined who we were as a brand, what we did, what we didn't do, created those brand pillars in terms of product, how we think about partnerships, and from there really learned what growth and scale looks like.
Okay, so I mean, guys, literally, she is dropping gems right now.
It's all connected. I'm like, there's so many things.
It's so connected. Because I definitely want to talk about partnerships and strategic partnerships. I think what you talked about a little bit too was like leveraging your product and listen, you can do this, especially when you have a higher priced product. And it could yield nothing.
Literally nothing. Like that was
so much
tens
risk.
of thousands of dollars that could have potentially done nothing.
Sheesh.
So there was a risk factor for sure. But like I said, we had been very intentional at the top of the year that looking at these numbers, if we don't have a big moment, we're not going to make it. Like that was a real thing for the brand because again, venture backed, somebody needs their money back sooner than later. And so there's a pressure level that you by yourself don't always feel. So imagine having, you know, your hopes and dreams invest in this business, other hopes and dreams invest in this business, dollars. We've got the founders who had really poured their hearts and soul into this brand. I'm taking it over, hoping that we can make something shake. And the first thing I do is risk tens of thousands of dollars, hoping that the craziest thing could happen, that Taylor Swift could actually wear a bracelet, which just like, what?
Oh my gosh.
But, you know, it worked. It worked.
I am absolutely just enamored by this whole story. So tell us a little bit more as far as on the flip side of this. Right? You have this major brand moment. What did that unlock for you as a brand? Not necessarily, you have to tell me the, you know, numbers, but like, did that unlock opportunities for you guys to create more? And we talked about the custom opportunities, but like, what did that mean for your team?
I mean, I think the team rallied in a way that I've never seen a team at this level do. They were so gracious with each other because obviously when you go viral, everything breaks. Website breaks, processes break, things that used to work now, we don't know where it is. Like things were not documented the way we would have hoped, right? Like we at that point were still doing manual shipping labels because our business it's such a different place beforehand. But because
it was more one-to-one.
It was one-to-one. Yeah, absolutely.
Versus one-to-many.
I mean, there was points where, you know, we knew every client by name because one, it's custom, so you get really detailed with these clients, right? The designers know exactly where everyone is, even if it's not written down somewhere. I remember when I joined, we had job tickets in our shop that had handwriting of like what was happening. Yes, it's plated. No, and it was just like,
wait, but that's something that's kind of cool.
It
like,
is.
Let us go back to like writing things down.
No, I have to respectfully disagree. Not when you have 1,000. Okay,
that's fair. That's fair.
But I think that was also some of the like beautifulness in what they were doing before the virality, which was like this high touch experience, like very thoughtful. It is nice to feel like you know every single client, know everything about them off the top of your head. That's honestly what's really made the great jewelers great, was that really personable energy and connection point. But when you're trying to marry that with large amounts of demand, you just can't do it the same way. Exactly. And that's where innovation has to happen. So for me, when that happened, we already started to kind of clean some things up before that moment, which is why, you know, they say those moments are a little bit of luck and a bit of preparation. And it's because we had actually fixed a few things right before.
Smart.
So we didn't know what was happening, but I would say God only places things in your lap when you're ready. And I feel like had we not done even just those little bits, it would have been a very different situation. So to kind of get back to like what that meant
prepping for a viral moment, like brilliant.
Well, and you don't, right? Like I think prepping for a viral moment is actually just doing good business. So like, yes, think about the virality, but it also just forces you, like, are you running this business efficiently? Do you have the right level of documentation? Like, it's so easy to not write things down or to not have a documented process, especially early on. Things change a lot, and that's okay. Change the Google Doc. Just change it. Anytime we have a eureka moment when we're working through something, write it down, write it down. Like my team knows, anytime we figure something out, write it down because we will all forget. There's too many things going on right now, but our future selves will thank us. And so write down as much as you can. But like that, I think, again, having that solid foundation means you're prepared for virality. If you are not prepared for virality, you're missing the moment in a way that could really be transformational for your brand. And that doesn't just mean having inventory. That means having the right relationship where you don't actually need to stock a ton of inventory, but do you have a manufacturing partner that will turn it up for you or turn it down for you? If they're having minimum quantities where it only works if you go viral, that's the wrong way to go because it's too much money for you until you go viral. You have to prove demand first. So for us, that was a lot of, okay, what can we control? What can't we control? Let's document what we control. And so when we got to the point where, okay, we went viral, some stuff broke, but most things were okay, thank God. We realized, all right, we can also do a couple other things. So one of the other things we learned was this bracelet went viral. And it's funny because we talk about this story in our internal team where at the time the founder, Drew, was talking to the design team about this bracelet. And there's this remark he says, you know, our team was making all these bracelets in our shop in Lancaster at one point, right? Hand by hand, deconstructing a tennis bracelet, reconstructing with beads. It was very, very manual. And there was this point where they were like, we love this design. And my operations manager to to Drew, our founder, was just like, hey, it's just super labor intensive. It doesn't really make sense to do a lot of these. So want you to know that. And Drew's like, okay, don't worry. Like, it's a $6,000. Like, this one's going to be that 1-for-1 experience. This is going to be that one that, few people. And it is literally the thing that changed our entire business. And went boom, boom, boom. So needless to say, we found great manufacturing partners for it. Like, we outsource bits of it. We keep some of it in-house, depending on what it is, just to make it faster and better and all the things. But those were those moments where yes, could have we prepared for scaling it and it being viral? Yeah, but then that would have meant we would have prepaid a ton of extra gold, a ton of extra diamonds, and that wouldn't have been sustainable for our brand. So there's a level of, you need to think through what makes sense, what's reusable, what's perishable. Yeah. But preparing for virality isn't just about getting a bunch of stock. It's also about the processes you have and how you run your business.
Makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. So something that you said stuck with me. You said, just change the Google Doc.
Yeah.
Right? And I think sometimes we get into the space where we feel like we have to go out and hire a consulting firm to tell us where we'll find the money. And sometimes it's the simplest thing that can yield the most return, right? Yeah. When you think about your journey, and whether that's with Wove or with, just being an entrepreneur, what's one of the simplest things that you've implemented that you've seen the most return on?
Writing things down, even unorganized. Like, any way that you can document it, do it. It's good legal practice. It's good for your brain. It's good for that quick question that kind of throws you off, but you have an answer. I remember, when I'm pitching investors and there's like notes I've scribbled down of like what our recent what our recent customer acquisition cost was, just from like quick math for me to set a budget later. Now I'm in a pitch and that person's asking me and I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank God I have this right here. Yeah. Because I didn't necessarily put it in a spreadsheet and I didn't do a whole analysis, but that quick little nugget really helped me. Totally. And so I would say, out of sight, out of mind is a real thing. And any version of documentation is helpful. Yeah. I'm big on keeping a tab open until I'm done with the task. Yeah. So visually that helps me. Yeah. Now granted, it will crash my computer, but it works to a degree. But then again, like I said, like documenting in the Google Doc, long to-do lists, giving yourself those check boxes next to your list. And so you just feel good saying, yes, that thing is done. Yeah. Because you always feel like there's a whole bunch of other things you could do and all that. But I would say just any level of documentation, writing it down, whatever version of that works for you. Cheat code. Okay. I love this. So let's go back to talking about how this viral moment kind of unlocked a new category that the team needed to really lean into. Yeah. One thing, if you guys have not checked out Wove yet, is it's some of the most beautiful jewelry that I have ever seen. Yeah. And I think what's really interesting, so when I worked on Pizza Hut, we talked about the dining occasion changing, right? Yeah. And so now I'm feeling like the diamond occasion is changing, right? Yes. And I've been at an event and I've seen some of the pieces and I'm like, what critical moments are coming up in my life, or big moments coming up in my life that I just want to celebrate? I had a friend who finished her PhD and went out and bought herself a diamond ring. Yes, 100%.
And because she was like,
highly recommend.
This is a huge moment to lament, and like I'm going to do that in a big way and wear it proudly, right? So let's talk a little bit about how that's changing, and then some exciting things around customization that you're starting to find as you get down the path.
I have to say a big disclaimer. I am not saying you should buy diamonds for yourself because I sell diamonds. I'm saying it as one of you who celebrates herself nowhere near enough in her life, and we need to be in a place where we're not waiting for him to buy the diamond, okay? We might wait a long time. And so forget it. Like, we're doing it for ourselves. Yes. So I did exactly the same thing as your friend. My first year at Wove, I bought myself a diamond ring because I was like, it's my first year as a CEO. Like, I've taken on a lot. We've accomplished a lot in year one. Like, I'm so proud of myself. Yes. And so why not build something that I can pass to my daughter, I can feel good about? It's not made out of something that is it's made out of precious metals.
Yes.
It's made out of the strongest composition possible, right? Like the diamond is the hardest stone you can get, and it's also the most beautiful stone you can get, right? There's so much relevant elements of why a diamond specifically works. Obviously, we love gemstones and all the things, but I'm just such a fan of what a diamond represents for a woman, especially a strong woman who is beautiful and rising in her own right, blue in her bloom era. So yes, there are so many ways that we can commemorate those things. Obviously, as moms, I love a good something to represent our children, and adding different stones to represent your children. The job, the accomplishment in the gym, anything we want to do to celebrate ourselves. And I'll say one of the things that has also changed us a bit is the proliferation of lab-grown diamonds. Like we're in a place now where it doesn't cost $10,000 for a decent diamond anymore.
Yeah.
You can get a really beautiful diamond ring for $1,000, for $700, depending on the size, carat, cut, all the things.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of options out there. And so you can have that same look and feel, have a chemically made diamond, but it also now allows us to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to splurge on myself and spend $1,000 here, $2,000 here, $5,000 here, and it not be this wild experience. Even with down to like, tennis bracelets and tennis necklaces. Like those are things where they're non-perishable items. You're going to keep them forever. They're still set in solid gold. I just think now there's a whole new conversation happening about how are we utilizing these precious metals and stones to represent like amazing moments in our lives.
Yes. Saying how the dollar moves right now, but to have something that could potentially pass down or that will last a lifetime, it's beautiful. And that's celebrating such a critical and epic moment is,
it really makes me think of, my past life was in the hair industry, and I remember thinking birthday hair. Oh, I'm spending some money on my birthday hair.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking about what's my birthday jewelry? Yes. What's my birthday bling this year?
Yeah.
And that could be something you stack over time. You highlight different moments. Maybe this year you don't go on the trip, but you take something that reminds you of your favorite place.
Exactly.
And you create something from scratch that reminds you of the year that you have, what you accomplished to get to that birthday.
Yes.
That's where we can start making, different decisions with our dollars, but remembering it for lifetimes and with proof.
Yes, I love this. And listen, if you cannot, I hope the camera is picking this up. I'm like, put the jewels in the cam because she is stunning. Everything she has on is gorgeous. I keep my eyes keep going to this yellow.
Oh, it's so good. Well, so the yellow. This is a thing where, again, in jewelry, there's a big discourse about natural diamonds and lab-grown diamonds. We won't go into the details. The only thing I will say is I am a super fan of lab-grown diamonds, especially for fashion jewelry or things that maybe it's not your engagement ring. There's still a lot of people who believe your engagement ring should be a natural stone. For me personally, because of my faith and what I believe, I would like an engagement ring that's natural, but lab-grown diamond all day, fashion all day, trend all day, lab-grown diamond. So like a diamond like this color, you can get in a lab-grown diamond at a fraction of the cost. Something like this would be in a museum if it was natural.
Yeah.
So I think lab-grown just makes you get more exposure to all the beauty and creative flares you can have with custom jewelry now that just before, we only saw it on celebrities.
The world that we live in is so high-low, right?
Yes.
From all aspects of fashion, all aspects of how we just engage with the world nowadays is like high-low. So to know that option exists, right? Like I know a lot of times when we talk about jewelry, people feel like that's so out of reach for me.
No, seriously.
And so just to think like, okay, well, maybe your engagement ring is this, but like your celebratory ring is this or your earrings are this. Like that's such a
like we need to be thinking about the right hand.
Yes.
Like what's happening on the right hand.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, this is all thrilling. I'm so excited about the conversation, but we talked a little bit about this earlier. Strategic brand partnerships.
Yes. Sorry, we keep floating away from partnerships.
We're going to talk about partnerships, okay? Because I think when we talk about being built to brand, it's not always just about being insular. And sometimes it's about looking around and figuring out where those key collaborations can be, should be. So talk a little bit more about your strategy when it comes to strategic brand partnerships. And then I'm going to ask you after that to give you a heads up about creators who are watching this right now or listening to this and like, I want to work with them.
Yes. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. So strategic partnerships for us really comes down to storytelling. I'm always looking for a story that we want to tell through jewelry. And so if you have a story that resonates with you, resonates with your audience, that's what we're looking for. We're also looking for ways to bring jewelry into spaces that don't normally get to happen. Again, because of this lab-grown diamond jewelry world that we're in now. So for instance, we did a partnership with Desiree, a handbag brand based out of Dallas. Amazing handbags, y'all. Black designer, first Black designer in the Dallas Galleria. She's incredible. And so we've been doing different work together, and we had an idea of just making this this line of hat and accessory line. So something made out of 14 karat gold and diamonds that you could pin to your hat or add to your bag. And so we created this paper clip component, if you will, that you could put charms on. But these charms were buildable over time, but they were all made in 14 karat gold and diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, right? Actually, we did have some with natural diamonds too. But needless to say, we were trying to bring jewelry into a space that it doesn't usually get to go in. Yeah. Normally, we're seeing, like brass things or things that like will break over time. Yep. So granted, it's a little bit avant-garde for your hat or your bag. Yeah, but if you're walking around with a $10,000 bag, it's not really that crazy to have a 14 karat gold pin on it with a diamond on it.
Exactly.
So that's where we think like, how can we do things differently? How can we bring innovation to really fun fashion moments with jewelry? And then when we think about just storytelling, right? Like Michelle was trying to highlight different ways to connect to her mom era, to build pieces that reminded her of her kids. We created another version of that custom diamond friendship bracelet with blue topaz to represent her new son that she just had. So we're really thinking about how can we talk about the boy mom, the girl mom, all those things. We also just did a collection with Rachel Lindsay, first African-American bachelorette. And we talked about resilience and power because we know that her relationship unfortunately didn't work out in the end. Public, yeah. But who hasn't had a rough go around, right? Who's had a love and it didn't work out in the end. But we have to pick ourselves up and we have to recognize our own power and continue on. And so we created a collection that really highlights that self-love and self-care, regardless of what life throws at you. So partnerships like that like have some meaning to them. Yeah. We've got something to say, and we're doing it through gold and
I love
diamonds.
This. And I love talking about unexpected partnerships because I think sometimes those are where we find the most value and people are like, oh my gosh, that does make sense. If I don't have a Birkin, but we're gonna pretend like I did.
We're gonna pretend. I don't have one either, girl. We try to get there.
Mentally I have a Birkin.
yes.
I have a Birkin. Heck yeah, why not I put some diamonds on my Birkin, right? I think those are the types of opportunities that start to, when we talk about getting out of such a crowded and cluttered space, set you apart. Point of differentiation as a brand. Okay. So tell me, as we are talking to some creators right now who are like, I really want to be a influencer for this brand. What are you looking for?
I'm really looking for storytellers. I want storytellers. I want folks that are creative. One of the things about our brand right now is we're really trying to push that creative co-creation, collaborative experience. And so we don't want basic designs. Like jewelry designers do that every day. What we want to do is create pieces that speak to someone's life experience. And so if you have ideas around that and want to showcase that and talk about why something is, meaningful to you, get a little bit vulnerable, those are the types of pieces we want to create. And those are the types of collaborators we want on those moments.
Nice. Okay. Last question. In this area, at least, when you think about brands and strategic brand partnerships or even creators, who would you love to work with? Like, who would you aspire to work with? What would be a really cool partnership that you think
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just talking about this earlier today. There are a variety of people I want to meet with and collaborate with on different vibes. So we've got bridal, right? And then we've got custom jewelry. Bridal, I really want to be a part of Bozoma St. John's new engagement.
Ooh.
We know she's going to get engaged. We know she's going to get engaged.
She is.
Yes, she is.
She
right?
is my man right now. And he is my woman.
Yes. And they're so happy. And they represent this second chance at life. And, you know, we all, again, have gone through stuff, right? And she's been a single mom for a long time, and it's always honored her husband. And so there's so many levels. And then just her as a human, as a freaking boss, like what?
And a creative.
She's
phenomenal.
Representing for us so well on Real Housewives. Like there's so many elements. So Boz, girl, please call me, please. I also just love to meet her generally.
Yes.
Like I need some of that sauce on me. She would be great on the bridal side. And then custom jewelry, I really want to work with Paris Hilton. I really want to, like, we all know Paris for this like bigger than life, very pink, very luxury feel. But I think as she's had her child and started to lean more into the other things that are beyond just like her sort of stage personality and her as a really like a great adult, great investor, I would love to collab with her to create like pieces that are everyday wear, but they're just a little bit more fun and a little bit pushing the needle and a little bit like we're using all pink diamonds. And there's a version of it that's like easy for every day. And then there's like this stupid big version that she wears on the red carpet. Like I just want to have fun, and I feel like she understands the business side of things now. She's got this mom energy happening. She's a beautiful wife to her husband. There's so many elements that so many people can relate to. There's the nostalgia of it all. So Paris Hilton would be my other one.
I love that. I think you guys are a perfect size to have fun.
Yeah.
And if you don't take anything away from this conversation, I think that's it, right? Sometimes you don't need to be a massive brand to stay true to who you are at your core and your foundation, and to continue to have fun, right? When you start to scale and get too big, sometimes that can be a challenge to maintain.
I'm sure you've experienced that more so, like working within the big brands, right?
Absolutely.
Like, there's a lot of red tape around it that like us as consumers, we don't really understand why maybe a certain collab hasn't happened. Yeah. And you know why. Yeah. Because there's like 5 VPs involved.
It's 5 VPs, and then it's like, we also have 15,000 franchises of this thing. It's not easy to make a change to, I don't know, a tortilla. You would think it's so simple, but that's not necessarily the case, right? Yeah. Okay, so last question to you, because I mean, you are such a girl boss. You are such an incredible human being. You're such an incredible mom.
Thank you.
When it came to you moving into this position, your own personal brand and how you show up is also incredible. How do you think that played a role in you landing this opportunity? I mean, even just sheer confidence that you could do this.
Yeah, I think that was the only way. I had to be confident. This was the first job that I had where I didn't have a brand name behind me that was sort of what I wasn't within an organization being hired, right? So there wasn't a manager's going to call a manager and everybody knows Simone from her Capital One days. Like that was sort of one era of my life. And then I was at another startup where I was really hired by the CEO, my co-founder, right? So there was not a lot of, my personal brand spoke for itself in the sort of weeds of things. I wasn't presenting any sort of way. But I think what I realized in getting this role was one isn't just about like what you think you're presenting. It's both. It is what you don't think you're presenting and what you 100% are intentionally presenting. So for me, after business school, I had decided I had been in corporate for a long time. So like from college to business school, I was at Capital One. I was supposed to actually go back to Capital One after business school, but we respectfully declined and said, let's take a leap of faith and do this startup thing. But I think that business school journey reminded me that, there is no bigger brand that I can lean on. I'm not the girl from Capital One. I'm not just the girl from Parfait. I'm not just so I need to be myself in all rooms. And because at any point a brand could change, move, different direction, what have you. So I need to be the constant, and I'm good enough to be the constant, because that's half the battle. Yes. The reason why we use other brands to validate who we are, or we're like the creator from Facebook or whatever, right? And then we lose the job at Facebook. Like we get laid off. Like a lot of people unfortunately are. And then it's like, well, who am I? And I think making a stand that who you are is enough, and then being proud about that, talking about it.
Yeah.
I ended up, starting to make a little content about it because what I love about the persona in life I have now is this like mompreneur vibe. I love bringing my daughter to stuff. I love being the same person in all rooms.
Yes.
And once I started doing that, I realized things work out very well. So if you lean into who you actually are, your personal brand, what you like, what you don't like, don't be afraid to be a little bit of a contrarian. Don't be afraid to have fun with it. You'll find your groove. That's when things start to work out for you. So like selfishly, I'm like, well, okay, if me actually like doing what I'm supposed to do and what's natural, but then a little bit unnatural, maybe doing it in spaces that I wasn't used to doing it in, but leaning into who I am in every room works, then girl, come on, we got to do it. That's how we make money.
We got to
do it no matter what. Whether it's the motivation of being scared or the motivation of we ain't got nothing else.
Yes.
Got to do it.
Yes. Okay, one more thing. Tell us about your favorite no.
Oh, favorite no.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because they come. And I think that's the thing that takes a lot of people out.
Yeah.
Is when they get too many no's, they just back down.
Yep.
You can't be a CEO. You can't have a successful brand.
Yeah.
You can't break through in all of these crowded spaces without a few no's. What's been your favorite no?
My favorite no, there's been quite a few, but there's one story that I think it's a lot of no's end up being redirection. And so for me, I realize anytime I get a no, cool, I'm on the right path, because that would have been a distraction, a diversion, a waste of time, or just not for me. And I only want to spend my time doing things that are for me. Yes. And I think my first realization of that was pretty early in my career. I was at Capital One doing the corporate queen thing, and there was a job so at the time I was working at an office that had a pretty large group of people there. So if you're familiar with like corporate land, you've got these people centers. So every company has like sort of the office that you want to be a part of, right? Like you want to be in the New York office, you want to be in the McLean, Virginia office, for my Capital One people.
Yeah.
And so at that time I was in the Wilmington, Delaware office, which was really like a hub for a part of the business, but not really like you weren't getting access to all the opportunities in the company. It was pretty siloed in terms of the job opportunities there. Okay. And so, but it was still, I had access to other parts of the company, if you will, from being there, right? So there was an opportunity for someone to be hired to run one of the Capital One 360 cafes. So those really dope cafes are in these different cities. At that time, we were just opening up a few of them. And I'd gone out to apply for the Miami location. And I was so confident I got this job, y'all. I was like, the manager loves me and everybody loves me. And I felt like I had just been in my role there in Wilmington, I think for about 18 months. It was like right on time. And I didn't get the job. And I didn't understand why I didn't get the job. And I felt like I had done all the things that everyone else does to get the job, and it didn't work out. And I was looking up apartments. I had already told my significant other, hey, we going to Miami.
I see myself here.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Oh, I was upset. And I felt I felt rejected. I felt, not good enough. It was just like really, that was probably my first real no also in my career. But 6 months later, I get pregnant with Kaya. Yeah. And that team ended up leading me to the team that was in the big boy headquarters in McLean, Virginia, which led me to business school, which led me to my first startup raising money, which led me to here. Had I gone to Miami and been running a store in Miami.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. Nothing would have happened. Yeah. That really has shaped everything I am now. And so that was a really tough no, but it was the understanding. You have to go through that. The first one's going to hurt bad. Yeah. You just going to have to cry it out, child. Yeah. You don't have to cry it out.
Yes.
Let it be, pray about it, and then recognize that he's just nudging you to the right place. He's just keeping you on track.
Yes.
So now every no is like that. Even with like partnership stuff. Girl, there were partnerships that I said last year I wanted to lock in before the end of the year. Yeah. I said, I'm going to have this done. This person's going to sign. We're going to be good, blah, blah, blah. And that didn't happen. And now I'm hearing from founder friends who are saying, oh, I did that deal. And like, it didn't do anything for my business.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank God. Because I don't have room to make mistakes right now, right? Like, I don't have the room. So every time things are sluggish, they take too long, it doesn't work out when it should work out, all that, the no's, it is for a reason. And you should thank God for the redirection onto your path.
Absolutely.
Everything else is a distraction.
Yes. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap, but I'm so excited. This is an amazing conversation, and I hope we could do a follow-up because I feel like you have so many gems.
There's
like
so
we have
many
to
things.
the conversation prior to us rolling was
also
even,
good.
it was so good. So we may have to run it back just
we
for
need
that.
to do like the Our Bodega after hours for that one. Like the personal, because y'all, there's a lot of personal stories within this journey, not just the PC stuff, but like what actually happened in our lives through this thing. Like having to go to work with an engagement gone awry, you know, like, and still achieving and all things.
Exactly.
So I vote. Our Bodega after hours. Let's do it.
We should totally do it. I remember someone was like, we didn't even know you were pregnant because we were working from home.
Okay.
And then one day I showed up to the office and everybody was like, oh, you are with child.
Yes.
So
and what does that mean with your anxiety level, your hormones, it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Whole thing? Okay. After
hours. So we're going
hours.
to talk about it.
Yes.
After hours. I love it.
Yes.
So tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find Wove. If you have any exciting things upcoming that we just need to know about, just tell the people.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. So you can follow me on all socials at Simone Kendle. You can follow Wove, our brand, at Wove Made on Instagram, YouTube, all the things. We also have a podcast called Rings and Things Podcast where I try to break down all the tough parts of buying an engagement ring and custom jewelry. Adding things for Wove. Super excited about Mother's Day. That's essentially like my birthday through the brand every year because I feel like I've gotten into this flow where I create something that I feel like for the mamas and I just love it. So watch out this Mother's Day. We're going to be coming out with beautiful mommy and me sets. So if you think about, you know, the bracelet that your baby always has, so I want to create, we are creating mommy and me sets so you can match, you know, your little ones this Mother's Day.
Oh my gosh, that is so adorable. Well, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, you've just been a joy.
Yay. Thank you for
you're just so
having me.
fly.
Hey, gotta be.
Head to toe.
We
love it here. We love it here. Yes. Built to brand, honey. Built.
Yeah.